I knew something was wrong the moment I walked into the town hall. Everyone went silent. Too fast, too heavy. Sheriff Klein stood at the front with a thick file in his hands, and when he looked at me, he didn't even pretend to hide the smirk. "Mara Hale," he said loudly, "you are hereby removed from the Hale family land registry, effective tonight." My heart slammed inside my chest. Remove me. That land is mine. My father left it to me. My voice shook, but I forced myself to stand tall. Klein snapped. "Not anymore." He held up a paper, already stamped. I grabbed it, my fingers trembling. What I saw nearly knocked the breath out of me. My signature. Forged, perfectly, cleanly. Like I had signed away everything. Someone laughed behind me. I turned and saw Lydia Cross, the woman who had wanted my land for years, leaning on the doorway, like she owned the world. "This town deserves better crops," she said, smiling coldly. "We'll take good care of it." They filed out one by one, leaving me alone in the echoing hall. The weight of betrayal sat on my chest, thick like smoke. That was the night, right there, in front of the whole town. They buried my name. But something in me whispered back. Not for long, I didn't cry. Not then. Not even when I stepped out into the cold night and realized the soil I grew up on was no longer legally mine. Instead, I walked straight to my dad's old shed. The moon hung low, lighting the dust in the air. I pushed open the door and whispered, "Help me, Dad. Tell me what they did." The shed smelled like cedar and motor oil. I walked past the tools, past the broken radio, toward the floorboard he once called our secret spot. I knelt and tore it up. Underneath was a rusted lockbox, with my name carved into the lid. My real name, the one nobody could forge. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were documents. His handwriting, land papers with dates, maps showing survey lines that didn't match the ones the sheriff used tonight, and a letter. "Mara, if anyone ever tries to take what is yours, trust no one." Crosses smile with knives, Kleins hide secrets beneath their boots. My breath froze. Lydia Cross, Sheriff Klein, both of them, together. I felt my fear folding into something sharper. I whispered, "You didn't bury me deep enough." Because now I had proof, real proof, that their whole plan was built on lies, and lies can burn. By sunrise, word had already spread. Folks stared from porches as I walked through town, the lockbox tucked under my arm. Some looked guilty. Most looked scared. That told me plenty. At the general store, Old Man Rowe stepped out and blocked my path. "Mara, just leave it be," he muttered. "Cross owns half this town. Klein controls the other half." "And what do they own without fear?" I asked softly. He didn't answer. Because we both knew, I headed to the county records office. Klein's deputy, Morgan Tate, sat behind the counter, pretending not to notice me. I slammed the original survey maps on the desk. "Compare them," I said. He blinked, swallowed hard, and looked over the papers. His face drained. These don't match the new registry at all." "Because someone changed them," I said, leaning closer, "and someone forged my signature." Morgan whispered, "Mara, if you're smart, you'll run." "I'm done running." Before he could reply, the lights flickered. Lydia Cross stepped into the doorway, wearing a smile that felt like a blade. "Well," she said, "looks like someone's been digging." I held her stare. "And I'm not done yet." The first spark had been lit, and she knew it. That evening, I returned to the Hale property, my property. The sky glowed orange as the sun dipped behind the fields. I stood at the fence line, staring at the land that raised me, the land they thought they could steal. Fresh tire marks cut across the soil, deep ones, heavy ones. I walked slowly, heart thumping, until I reached the old barn. Its doors were open. A cold fear crept up my spine. Inside, the ground was dug up. Massive holes, like someone had been searching for something. They had torn through Dad's tools, smashed crates, ripped down shelves. A message sprayed on the wall made my throat tighten. Leave or lose everything. My voice trembled as I whispered, "Cowards." But then I noticed something else, a sliver of metal sticking out from the disturbed dirt. I knelt and brushed it clean. It was another lockbox, one I had never seen before. My father must have buried more than one secret. Hands shaking, I opened it. Inside was a ledger, names, dates, payments, all tied to Cross Enterprises and Sheriff Klein's signature, all over the margins, bribes, land grabs, cover-ups. I murmured, "Dad, what were you protecting me from?" The wind howled through the broken boards, as if warning me, but it was too late. I wasn't backing down now. I kept the ledger close as I walked back toward town. Night settled fast, and the roads felt emptier than usual, like everyone knew something was coming. Halfway there, a pickup slowed beside me. I tensed, ready to run, but the window rolled down and a familiar face leaned out. Jamie Ridge, the mechanic who used to help my dad fix our tractors. Quiet, honest Jamie. "Mara," he said, in a low voice. "Get in. They're watching the roads." I hesitated. Trust was a luxury I no longer had. But something in his eyes wasn't fear. It was anger. Real anger. I climbed in. The truck smelled like oil and pine. He drove fast, hands gripping the wheel. "I saw what they did to your barn," he muttered. "And I know you didn't sign those land papers. Klein's been covering for Cross for years. Everybody knows it." "Then why hasn't anyone spoken up?" I snapped. "Because people here don't survive by speaking," he said softly. He pulled into an empty workshop behind his garage and turned off the lights. "You need help, Mara." "And I'm in. Whatever they buried, we dig it up together." A lump rose in my throat. For the first time since everything fell apart, I wasn't alone, and that changed everything. Jamie shut the workshop door behind us and locked it. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of an old fan. I set the ledger on his workbench and we leaned over it together. Names filled every page, farmers, shopkeepers, even church elders. Payments, land transfers. "Look at this," I whispered, pointing to a date. This was the week my dad got sick. Jamie frowned. Cross paid Klein $3,000 that same day. The numbers felt like bruises. Every line told a story. Of someone cheated, someone threatened, someone silenced. Jamie whispered, "Mara, your dad must have found this. That's why they wanted your land so badly. Someone must have searched the barn because they thought you had it already." My stomach tightened. If they think I have their biggest secret, they won't stop. He looked at me firmly. Then we hit back before they do. Before I could respond, headlights flashed across the workshop window. A truck slowed outside. The silhouette of Sheriff Klein's hat appeared near the door. Jamie grabbed my wrist. "Stay behind me," Klein's voice boomed. "Jamie Ridge, open up." My breath caught. They were watching him too. The doorknob shook. The first real strike of the war had begun. Jamie held a finger to his lips, then pointed toward the back exit. My pulse hammered in my ears. Sheriff Klein kept pounding on the front door, each hit ringing like a countdown. "Jamie!" Klein shouted. "I know she's in there. You think protecting her is worth losing everything?" Jamie whispered. "Move, Mara. Now." We slipped out the back, stepping into the cool night air. Gravel crunched under our boots. I winced, praying Klein didn't hear Jamie led us behind stacks of old tires. The workshop shook as Klein kicked the door open. I held my breath. "Mara Hale," he barked. "You think you can dig up ghosts and walk away?" Jamie motioned for me to follow him toward the tree line. We crept as quietly as we could. My heart thudded when I heard Klein's footsteps outside again. "She's close," he growled. Jamie hissed, "Run." We sprinted through the dark, the trees swallowing us. Branches whipped my arms, but I didn't stop. For a moment, I thought we were safe, until a gunshot split the night. Jamie yanked me down behind a fallen log. "He's firing warning shots," he whispered harshly. "Next ones won't be warnings." I pressed my forehead into the dirt, shaking. They weren't just trying to scare me, they were trying to trap me. We didn't stop running until we reached a small wooden cabin deep in the woods. Jamie fumbled for the key hidden under a loose stone and pushed the door open. Inside, it smelled like dust and old firewood, one of his uncle's hunting cabins. "You'll be safe here," he said, voice low but steady. I collapsed onto a worn chair. My hands were still trembling. "Klein knows you're helping me now." Jamie met my eyes. "I don't care. Someone has to stand up against them." I placed the ledger on the table. We flipped through more pages. One entry caught my attention. Hale land transfer scheduled. Date next week. Amount $90,000. Recipient Lydia Cross. My stomach twisted. They planned this for months. Jamie leaned close. "This ledger is enough to take them down, Mara. But you need more. People won't believe it unless they see the whole chain." He pointed to a name repeatedly appearing beside Klein's signatures. "Jonas Pike, surveyor." "Maybe he knows the truth," Jamie said. Before I could respond, the cabin steps creaked. My blood went cold. Jamie grabbed a wrench, motioning for silence. A shadow moved outside the window, slow, intentional. I swallowed hard. "Jamie, someone found us." We weren't safe after all. The shadow stopped right outside the window. My breath hitched as the figure leaned closer, the glass reflecting a faint outline. Jamie tightened his grip on the wrench. "Stay behind me," he whispered. The doorknob jiggled, once, twice. Then a harsh voice cracked through the night air. "Mara, open the door. It's Jonas Pike." Jamie froze. "The surveyor?" I hesitated. "Why would he come here?" Jamie motioned me away from the window and cracked the door open just enough to see outside. Jonas stood there, mud on his boots, sweat on his forehead, eyes darting like a hunted animal. He pushed inside before Jamie even allowed it. "You're both in danger," he gasped. "Klein knows you found the old ledger. He thinks I gave it to you." Jamie snapped. "Did you?" Jonas shook his head. "I couldn't. They watch me day and night. But I know what's in that book. I helped them redraw all the survey lines. I signed papers I shouldn't have. I regret it, every bit of it." He slumped into a chair, gripping his hair. "Mara, they forged your name because you were the only one who could challenge them." My voice wavered. "Then tell me how to stop them." Jonas looked up, haunted. "There's something bigger you haven't uncovered yet." Jonas's hands shook as he opened his backpack. Inside were rolled maps, older, rougher, stamped with the county's emblem. "These," he whispered, "are the original land grids before Cross Enterprises took over." He spread them on the table. My heart pounded as I compared them with the forged ones. Entire properties had been shifted. Boundaries moved just enough for Cross to claim what wasn't hers. "They didn't just take your land," Jonas said. "They took land from dozens of families, all hidden under new registry numbers. The whole town is built on lies." Jamie leaned closer. "Why come to us now?" Jonas swallowed. "Because Klein ordered me to destroy the last physical evidence tonight. But I couldn't do it. Not after what they're planning next." A chill crawled up my spine. "What are they planning?" Jonas hesitated, voice cracking. "They're going to sell every stolen property to an out-of-state corporation. In 2 weeks, this town won't belong to the people anymore, and anyone who speaks up." He looked at me with terrified eyes. "They're marked." My throat tightened. "Marked how?" Jonas slowly pulled up his sleeve. A fresh bruise wrapped around his forearm, shaped like fingers. "Consider this your warning," he whispered. Before I could speak, a loud thump hit the cabin door. Someone else had arrived. The thump on the cabin door shook the walls. Jonas jerked upright, panic flaring in his eyes. Jamie grabbed the wrench again and motioned for silence. My heartbeat felt like it might crack my ribs. Another thump, harder this time. Whoever it was wasn't trying to be gentle. "Mara," Jamie whispered. "Get to the back room. Now." But before I moved, a voice drifted through the crack in the wood. Low, familiar, dangerous. "Open up, we need to talk." Lydia Cross. My stomach clenched. Jamie mouthed, "Don't speak." But Lydia spoke again, her tone almost playful. "I know you're in there, Mara, and I know you've been digging cute." Jonas's breath hitched. "She can't know I'm here," he whispered shakily. The doorknob twisted sharply. Jamie braced his shoulder against the door. Lydia sighed loudly. "You really think a door can stop me? I'm offering kindness tonight. Tomorrow I won't be so patient." I stepped forward before I even realized it, anger buzzing in my bones. "What do you want?" I shouted. Silence. Then a soft laugh. Mara Hale finally grows teeth. Her boots crunched in the dirt as she stepped back. "You have until sunrise to hand over what you found." Another pause. A colder tone. "After that, you're not my problem anymore." Then she walked away, leaving a threat heavier than her footsteps. The door rattled one last time as Lydia's truck faded into the trees. None of us spoke for a moment. The cabin felt smaller, the air tighter, like danger pressed itself into the walls. Jamie locked the door and turned to me. "We can't wait here. If she comes back with Klein, we're trapped." Jonas wiped sweat from his brow. "She means what she said. Lydia doesn't bluff." I stared at the ledger on the table. "She wants this. She thinks taking it will bury everything." Jamie stepped closer, voice steady. "So what's the plan, Mara? Do we run with it? Fight with it? Expose them?" Fear twisted in my stomach, but something inside me hardened. "We expose them in the open, where they can't twist it." Jonas shook his head quickly. "They own the sheriff's office, the registry, half the news outlets. Then we take it to the one place nobody controls." Jamie interrupted. "The county courthouse. If we file a public grievance with evidence, they're forced to investigate. No way around it." Jonas swallowed. "They'll come after us before we get there." "I know," I whispered. "But this is bigger than me now." Jamie nodded. "We move before sunrise." I looked at both of them. Scared, determined, flawed, brave. My allies. This was the moment I chose not to be a victim. I chose to fight. We left the cabin while the sky was still dark, pushing through the trees with the ledger wrapped tightly in my jacket. The forest felt colder than usual, every sound sharper, every shadow a threat. Jamie led the way with a flashlight dimmed low. "Main road's too dangerous," he murmured. "We cut through the creek bed and circle around." Jonas stumbled behind me, his nerves frayed. "If Klein catches us..." I cut him off. "He won't." My voice shook, but I kept walking. I couldn't afford fear to guide me anymore. As we reached the creek bed, water splashed softly under our boots. A faint glow appeared through the trees. Headlights sweeping slowly across the forest. Jamie cursed under his breath. "They're searching." We ducked behind a fallen tree as a patrol truck crept past. Klein's voice crackled through his radio, sharp and impatient. "Ridge's truck is gone. They're moving toward town. Find them." Jonas pressed a hand over his mouth to keep from breathing too loudly. The truck rolled away, but the dread stayed. We waited, barely daring to move, until the forest fell quiet again. Jamie leaned close. "Mara, we don't have much time." I hugged the ledger to my chest. "Then we run faster." The courthouse was still miles away, and the hunt had officially begun. We reached Miller's Bridge just as a pale line of dawn brushed the sky. The old wooden planks groaned under our steps. Beneath us, the river thrashed with early spring rainwater, loud enough to drown out our whispering breaths. Jamie paused halfway across. If they cut us off here, there's no escape. Keep moving. I tightened my grip on the ledger and hurried. Jonas lagged, shaking with exhaustion. I'm trying, he muttered, breathless. Then, from the far end of the bridge, a truck engine roared. A black SUV screeched to a stop, blocking the exit. Lydia Cross stepped out, dressed sharp even at dawn, her hair tied back, like she'd prepared for war. Well, she said, smiling coldly, look at the trio of trouble. Jamie pulled me behind him. Keep walking, Mara, he whispered. Lydia raised a hand signal. Men stepped out of the SUV, 3 of them, armed. Give me the ledger, she called. And maybe you walk away with your bones unbroken. My fingers tightened around the jacket. No. Her smile vanished. Wrong answer. Behind us, another engine roared. We spun. Sheriff Klein's patrol truck rolled onto the bridge, blocking the way back. We were trapped in the middle, between the river and the people who wanted to bury us with the truth. My breath caught as Klein stepped out of the truck, one hand resting on his holster. Should have stayed quiet, Mara, he said flatly. Would have saved all of us trouble. The bridge shuddered under our feet as the river pounded below. Jamie whispered, Get ready to jump if we have to. I stared at him. Into that? Better than into Cross's hands. Lydia took a slow step forward, her voice silky. Mara, dear, don't be stupid. You're fighting a battle you can't win. Jonas trembled. They'll kill us. I raised my chin. Then they'll kill us, knowing we didn't fold. Lydia's eyes narrowed. She nodded to her men. Take it from her. They moved, fast. Jamie swung the wrench, catching one in the shoulder. The man staggered back. Jonas grabbed another by the arm, surprising himself more than anyone. I darted backward, clutching the ledger, but Klein lunged toward me, boots slamming onto the planks. Mara! Jamie shouted. Klein reached, his hand closed on my jacket. And the world snapped. A loud crack thundered beneath us. The bridge's center beam split. The planks dipped, groaning violently. Get back, Jamie yelled. Too late. The wood buckled. Lydia stumbled. Jonas screamed. I lost my footing as the bridge began to collapse under our weight. The river roared upward like a hungry mouth. And then I fell. The river swallowed the bridge and me. Water slammed against my chest, stealing my breath. Logs and debris twisted around me like fingers trying to pull me down. My heart pounded as I kicked, clawed, and surfaced, gasping for air. Jamie grabbed my arm first, his grip iron strong. Hold on, he shouted, his voice barely cutting through the roar. Jonas thrashed next to us, coughing and sputtering. I clutched the ledger above my head, soaked and trembling. Pages were wet, but somehow the ink held. The river tried to take everything. But not that Lydia and her men screamed from the collapsing bridge, their shouts swallowed by the water. Klein's hat floated downriver like a dark omen. I felt a mix of fear and triumph. Jamie kicked toward a shallow bank, pulling us up. We collapsed, coughing and drenched, hearts racing. I hugged the ledger tighter, Jonas whispered, shaking. We survived. I looked back at the broken bridge, floating splinters scattered across the river. Lydia's men were trapped, helpless. Their power literally washed away. My lips curled into a sharp smile. They thought they could bury me. They only dug their own graves. The first strike of my revenge had landed, and the river carried their defeat downstream. Back at Jamie's workshop, we shook off water and mud, huddling around the drying ledger. Every page seemed heavier now, full of power and danger. Jonas finally spoke, voice trembling. I can help more. I know how to expose Klein and Cross legally. But we need proof. Photos, witnesses, anything that can't be denied. I nodded, eyes narrowing. Then we get it. Everything they tried to hide. The bribes, the fake signatures, the property swaps. We bring it into the light. Jamie leaned forward. I've got an idea. The old town accountant, Edith Monroe. She's been watching this mess for years. She's got files Klein doesn't know exist. Jonas hesitated. Edith is loyal to no one, but she hates Cross. She might help. I clenched my fists. Then we go to her. Tomorrow. At first light. For the first time I felt momentum. My anger had sharpened into strategy. But as we spoke, a noise at the back door froze us. A shadow slipped through the cracked window, light and silent. I spun, heart hammering. Lydia? No, it was someone else. Someone I didn't recognize, holding a camera. And they whispered, "You're not safe anywhere, Mara Hale." The stranger moved quickly, slipping through the back of the workshop. Like a wraith I tried to block the ledger, but the camera's click echoed too loudly. "Who are you?" I demanded, voice sharp. A hooded figure stepped into a sliver of moonlight. "I'm someone who wants truth," they muttered. "But the wrong people see this, and you're finished." Jamie tightened his grip on the wrench. "Are you working for Cross?" "No," the figure replied, shaking their head. "I'm against them, and I want to help you. But I can't risk showing my face." They handed me a memory card. "This has photos, payments, signed bribes, secret property transfers. Klein and Lydia won't see it coming." I stared, disbelief mixing with hope. "And you just leave it? Keep it hidden. Use it when the time is right. Make them regret every lie." The figure slipped away before I could respond. Vanishing into the night, I turned to Jamie and Jonas, heart racing. This could change everything. Proof they can't ignore. Jonas's eyes were wide. "We need to move fast, Cross, and Klein will know we survived the river. And now, someone knows we have evidence." My pulse spiked. Then it's no longer about survival. It's about revenge, controlled, precise, unstoppable. Outside, the wind whispered through the broken workshop window, carrying a warning. Someone was always watching. At sunrise, we made our way to Edith Monroe's small office at the edge of town. Her building looked abandoned, but as we knocked, a faint light flickered. Edith opened the door slowly, peering at us over thick glasses. "Mara Hale," she muttered. "I never thought you'd survive. And you brought that." I held up the ledger. "We need your help. Cross Klein. They've been stealing land, forging signatures. You know this. You have the files." She sighed, beckoning us in. "I do. But helping you is dangerous. I've kept quiet for years because, well, fear makes townsfolk obedient. But I see now, fear isn't stopping you. Maybe it never should have." We followed her into a dusty back room. Rows of filing cabinets loomed, stuffed with papers, maps, and photographs, proof stacked like bricks against corruption. Edith pulled out a folder. "Here's everything. Surveys, bank transfers, signatures. The network they built. If you take this to the right authority, they can't deny it. But," she paused, eyes sharp, "they'll know you're coming, and they'll stop at nothing." I whispered, gripping the ledger tighter. "Then we make them regret every second they underestimated me." Jamie and Jonas exchanged a glance. Edith leaned closer, voice low. "I don't do heroes, but I'll do witnesses. And if you fail..." Her words hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. By mid-morning, we were ready. Edith provided the files. Jonas carried copies of the photos, and Jamie secured the ledger in a waterproof satchel. We walked into town like we owned the streets, though every eye seemed to follow us. Our destination, the county courthouse. The courthouse steps gleamed in the sunlight, a perfect stage for the reveal. I stepped forward first, feeling the weight of the ledger and the files pressing against my ribs. "We're here to expose the truth," I said loudly, voice carrying over the square. A small crowd gathered, murmuring. Jamie and Jonas flanked me, holding evidence for anyone brave enough to see. Edith stepped forward, pulling out official papers no one could argue with. Suddenly, a black SUV skidded to the curb. Klein stepped out, his expression tight. Lydia Cross followed, elegant and lethal, eyes narrowing like a predator. "You think you can humiliate us in front of everyone?" Klein barked. I held the ledger high. "This isn't humiliation. This is truth, and the town deserves to know everything you've stolen, every signature, every bribe, every lie." The crowd gasped. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. Whispers became shouts. Lydia's face turned crimson. I smiled, calm, controlled. The first public strike had landed, and from here nothing could stop what I was about to do. The courthouse steps were alive now. Phones recorded every word, and whispers turned into murmurs of outrage. I flipped open the ledger, spreading the documents for everyone to see. "These are the original surveys, bribes, and signatures," I announced. "Cross Enterprises and Sheriff Klein have been forging documents, stealing land, and threatening anyone who spoke out." The crowd gasped. Some muttered, others stared in disbelief. Lydia Cross's lips pressed into a thin line. Klein's hand twitched near his holster, but neither dared move forward. Jonas stepped beside me. "I can confirm everything here," he said. "I signed papers under duress. I've brought proof of payments and communications you can't deny." Edith Monroe handed files to reporters. "We've been silent too long. Here is the evidence nobody can refute." The town's murmurs grew louder. Murmurs became voices, voices became calls for justice. I felt a strange calm. Every betrayal, every stolen inch of my land, every sleepless night, it all led here. Lydia tried to interrupt, but the crowd's attention wouldn't allow it. I whispered, barely audible to Jamie and Jonas. They thought they buried me. But truth has a way of digging itself up, and I just set fire to their lies. Klein's face twisted with anger. He barked orders at deputies, but cameras and townsfolk blocked him at every step. Lydia spun on her heel, storming toward the SUV. "This isn't over, Mara Hale," she shouted. I stood firm, heart hammering. "It is over," I said calmly. "The town sees everything now." Jamie whispered, "Expect retaliation. They won't stop until they think they've destroyed you." I nodded. "Then we won't stop either." The mayor appeared, hands raised. "Enough! The courthouse now holds proof of serious corruption. We must investigate immediately. No one is above the law." Even Klein flinched. I could see the weight of exposure pressing on him. Jonas leaned close. "You did it, Mara. You took the ledger, the evidence. You forced their hand." I clenched my fists. "We did it. All of us. And now the town knows the truth." Lydia and Klein retreated, the air thick with fury. But this time they weren't in control. I realized then that revenge isn't about cruelty. It's about reclaiming what's yours, with precision. And for the first time in months, I breathed. 2 days later, the courthouse investigation began in earnest. Reporters swarmed, townsfolk testified, and the ledger became the backbone of every story I watched as Lydia Cross's empire started to crumble. Her name was splashed across newspapers, her lies unveiled. Klein's corruption was documented, and internal investigations began immediately. Jonas came to me, quietly proud. "You didn't just save your land, you saved the town." I smiled, but the weight of the struggle remained. "It wasn't easy," I admitted, "and it's not done yet. They'll try again. People like them never quit quietly." Jamie clapped my shoulder. "Then we don't let them. You've set the fire, Mara. The town will keep it burning." I walked past the courthouse steps, feeling the sun on my face. The ledger, the documents, the evidence, it was all safe now. Even Edith nodded at me, a silent acknowledgement of victory. And in that moment, I realized revenge isn't about destruction. It's about rising from what tried to bury you, standing taller, and making sure no one forgets your name. I had dug my name up, and I had set fire to theirs. The town would never forget Mara Hale again. Weeks passed. Lydia Cross faced multiple charges. Klein was suspended. under investigation for forgery and bribery. The town rallied around the Hale family land, returning what was rightfully mine. Jamie and Jonas helped repair the barn, the fields, and the bridges we had crossed in fear. Work became therapy, and every nail hammered into the walls felt like a stitch in a wound. Finally closing, Edith visited often, always carrying old papers and new ideas. "The town deserves transparency," she said. "And you, Mara, deserve peace?" I nodded, feeling the weight of the ledger finally ease from my shoulders. But the lessons it brought stayed. Betrayal is bitter, courage is sharp, and the truth has its own unstoppable fire. At night, I walked the land, touching the soil and whispering to my father's memory. The river still roared nearby, a reminder that even what seems lost can return stronger and purer. I spoke aloud, voice steady. "No one buries Mara Hale without consequences, and no one will." Jamie chuckled softly behind me. "You always had that fire, just didn't know it yet." I smiled, eyes on the horizon. This was more than survival. This was reclamation. And in that reclamation, I found my strength. Months later, the town held a celebration. Families reclaimed lost land, businesses reopened, and Lydia Cross and her allies were forced into exile or prison. The courthouse hung banners honoring transparency, and my name, Mara Hale, was finally restored in every record. I stood at the podium that day, holding the ledger one last time. The crowd quieted, waiting for my words. This land, this town, it survived because the truth cannot be buried, I said, voice steady, clear, and neither can a person who refuses to be forgotten. Applause rose. Jamie, Jonas, and Edith stood beside me, grinning quietly. I looked at the fields stretching beyond the town, the barns, the fences, the river. It all bore witness to the battles fought and won. I realized revenge isn't about cruelty or destruction. It's about standing tall, reclaiming what's yours, and ensuring those who try to bury you learn the cost. I whispered to the wind, carrying my father's memory with me. I dug it up, I set fire to theirs, and I will protect it always. The sun dipped low, golden and fierce, painting the land in light. And for the first time in my life, I felt entirely free. Mara Hale's name would never be buried again. The fire I started, it would burn forever.